And behind the millionaires, women supporting, guiding, celebrating women with their wealth. You will hear from women millionaires, how they got there, what they wish they had known, what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Hello, money queens, ladies. Welcome tonight to Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, and this is our Rise and Find season. And tonight, it is all about legacy. While you're living, right, there's legacies, whether it's good or bad. You have a legacy. You have an imprint in this world. It's small, it's grand, it's big, it's bold. You have a legacy. We're going to talk about everything from, your impact in this world, in your communities, all the way to the legal side of your legacy. We often talk about at the Wealth Boutique that a legacy, there's 3 different pillars to it. One, there's the legal side, the legal documents. Yes, you need estate plan, wills, power of attorneys, maybe trusts, that sort of thing. Then there's the funding of it, right? The assets that you pass on. So even if you just have a car or a bank account, you have assets. You have an estate. So the funding of that. And then the third piece is more of the legacy, your story, your morals, your values, the lessons that you've learned, your impact in this world. And I can't wait to talk to tonight's guest on this. She is an expert on estate planning. And I want to begin with a quote from Maya Angelou as I was looking up for tonight. If you're going to leave a legacy, make a mark on the world that can't be erased. So one of the questions that I've been pondering coming into tonight's show is, when you think of a legacy, is it stuff that you've done for yourself? Or is it stuff that you've done to people around you? Or can it be both? And I'm very curious for your ladies' thoughts on this. I'm really asking our guest tonight what her thoughts are on it. I feel there's a lot of times, you hear from women, I'm a self-made woman. I put myself through college. It came from nothing, right? Even though she's been doing it for herself, there's a legacy there in my mind. And it's giving people all around her permission to do it. So I feel it's not even the selfish things that we do for taking care of ourselves. Those are lessons that we're now leaving other generations. I was talking with a recruiter earlier today. And she said, millennials have really brought that work-life balance in, right? And it's selfish on our part because we want to have a more of a balanced lifestyle and not working nonstop. So it's selfish in the matter, but it's also healthier, right? We're finding a healthier way to approach work as well. Maybe challenging having to commute to somewhere versus a virtual or a hybrid schedule as well, right? So there are things in my mind that as we do it, thinking about ourselves first, there's the ripple effect of it and giving people permission all around you that they can also do it. Maybe it's walking away from a corporate job that's no longer serving you. It might be selfish in the moment, but you're showing so many people that you need to love what you do and to go out there or live in a relationship, right? It'd be selfish, but you're showing your children that you don't have to settle in a relationship, that you can also find happiness outside of it too. So I do agree that it's how you make people feel and how your life is kind of interwoven into all these other lives around you. Too. I also love having friendships with multi-generations because we learn so much. I've been called an old soul. But that's part of probably why I love my clients. So many of my clients are in retirement or they're older, and I learn so much from them, and just hearing their perspective on the world and what's happening is eye-opening to me, and I love it. And then you learn so much also from younger generations. I mean, just with technology, let's be honest. With it too. So to me, that's also legacy, like learning from other people's legacies as well. And it's always evolving and changing as well. Well, let's bring on tonight's guest. Let me tell you a little bit about Lindsay Wheeler. She is a native Nevadan. She's from Nevada, who obtained her law degree in 2007. Since then, Lindsay has been passionate about educating people on how to easily and affordably access the legal system without having to hire a costly attorney. There's one of the biggest roadblocks, we're going to talk about that tonight, people have to getting their estate documents done. They think that it has to cost them so much money, but there are amazing resources like Lindsay. And she started Your Estate Plan to provide people with an easy and affordable way to complete their estate documents and protect their legacy by avoiding probate process as well. So let's bring Lindsay to the stage. Hello, Lindsay. How are you tonight?
Hey, great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us here. Reading your chapter, you spit out the average cost of probate. Do you remember what it is?
It's about $28,000, $26,000 is the average. It can go higher. It's a $1 billion industry every year. Like billion with a B. Yeah.
Wow. That blew my mind. And I know every state's a little different. And if it's not costing you a ton of money, it's probably costing you a ton of time just getting through the probate process.
Yeah. The quick probate is generally a year. We usually see them average about 14 to 18 months. And that's 14 to 18 months that those assets and everything is tied up with the court. So that alone right there. And it's not private. So that's another thing. So we can literally go through and look at people's lives. We can see death certificates. We can see children. We can see property. We can see all the assets. We can see all the things. So it's also not private.
Talk about gossip.
Yeah.
Everything is out. It's like you're just lying there with your underwear hanging out. People get to see all of that. There's no control over it too. Now, we just jumped right into the probate process. Let's take a step back though. For it, Lindsay, you wrote an incredible chapter of our newest book at Pink Fix Productions, Rise and Find. Have you written before, besides estate documents? Are you an author in a previous life, maybe?
No, I mean, just writing through school and then writing in law school and writing, legal documents. So that's, I do write quite a bit, but not in more of a fun way. I usually write in a more legal manner, but yeah.
Well, you need to do more of it, first and foremost. Lindsay does this beautiful story, and I love the storytelling process, especially how you did it through the chapter, but then you're learning these educational components of the estate process through the stories. So it doesn't, there's plenty of education in it, but it's in such an engaging way. And no matter what, everyone's going to fall in love with Barbara. Can you talk about who this dear woman was in your life?
So Barbara was my next door neighbor. She was older. She wasn't related to me, but she basically became kind of like the grandmother figure in my life. And frankly, a lot of people's lives in the neighborhood. It was kind of I don't know, I feel like that it doesn't exist anymore so much in the world, knowing your neighbors like in that way. But yeah, she definitely helped raise me, take care of me, took care of a lot of the other, neighborhood kids as well. So she was incredible that way.
Yes, she seemed to have made a huge imprint on your life from an early age, even taking you to Paris.
Yeah, she took me and
another friend.
Yeah, another neighbor kid. Amber, bless that woman. It took 2 teenagers to Paris and France for her vacation. She'd always wanted to go, and she took us along, and I was, a cranky teenager at that point and didn't want to dress up and, wanted to wear a lot of, fun teenage clothes. And she was just like, you have to dress appropriate when we go to mass at Notre Dame. And I was like, do we? But, in retrospect, I'm like, oh man, just a saint for her to do that and take us around. And we begged her to take us to Euro Disney because that was the first, pretty much the year that they opened. And she took us to Euro Disney on her vacation to France. So yeah, it was incredible. She's incredible looking back on it now.
As the South say, bless her heart. My goodness,
yeah.
She seemed to have a huge heart. You talk about how she was it sounded very sophisticated and elegant and beautifully styled. She just had her own way about herself.
She was always together, always taught us, kind of the finer things. When we all turned a certain age, she would take us to the mall and make sure that we got our makeup and make sure we got facial stuff because that's how you took care of yourself as a woman. And, she was great that way. It's interesting though, because she wasn't like she was unable, she was very together, very elegant, but very capable, and did a lot on her own, and a lot of things that were kind of unheard of for her time that she did. She worked in marketing for Ma Bell, during that time, which is, having a woman in marketing is frankly kind of unheard of, and that's what she did and was good at it. So that was also pretty incredible.
Yes, her career story was amazing. Leaving a bad marriage, first and foremost, and then building a career for herself from nothing was amazing as well. And then meeting the love of her life, settling down as well. What things, it sounds like she really took you in and mentored you, not only you, but the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
What are some business things that you took away from that relationship?
I just think, especially in her latter years, and I think I kind of mentioned this in the book, that, once you get to a certain point, maybe you're ready to pass, or you're at that point, people's brains start to degrade a little bit, but you kind of revert back to what's common or good or natural to you. And for her, she reverted back to work. And so she, would be, maybe she had to have a stay in the hospital, and she seemed a little disoriented, and she didn't like what the people, like the nurses, were doing and stuff. But if you changed it in her brain for her that these are her employees, and they're working for her, and they're doing her paperwork, and they're handling the client files, then she was okay. So that was super interesting to me to see kind of that transition in someone's very latter life, of where you revert back to, of where you're comfortable and where you were happy. And that was work for her. She felt like she was purposeful in doing those things and getting those things done, and that she, in her brain, that's where she was still. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Did you figure that out? Was it a team effort?
Yeah, because I'm the person who took care of things. So she would sometimes get frustrated, and she'd be like, go handle some stuff, or go do some paperwork, because she knew that that's what I did, So when she'd get frustrated, or, sometimes even forget who I was at a certain point, at a certain point in her latter life, she would, know that I was handling things either for her or externally. And so she would say, well, okay, go to work. I know you got to go to work, so that was really interesting. But yeah, on a personal level, she just taught me, always, dot your I's, cross your T's, making sure everything is taken care of. Everything is not perfect, because nothing's ever perfect, but, to have pride in what you do and make sure things are done well, and have that kind of sense of excellence, which was really nice.
Oh, sure. And then switching roles too, from her helping take care of you when you're younger, and now you are able to return the favor and help her out as well. What was that like?
It's always interesting. And, anybody who's been a caregiver or have parents or grandparents who are aging, it's an interesting shift, because you are used to being the child, you're used to being taken care of. And then now having to step into that caretaking role is a whole different world, frankly. And it could be difficult and exhausting. And, people, I don't think, understand that, and don't give themselves enough grace on that it is those things. And you are able to feel those emotions, and you might feel guilty that, oh, this is exhausting for me, and this is difficult, and I'm having to deal with this, and it's not my child. This is an adult who took care of me. It's kind of a weird shift in roles, but, understanding that that is a progression. It is difficult, and to have that grace for yourself.
Yes. And she was very blessed to have you during that time. You also assisted her on the legal side with her estate and leading up to it. Let's talk about some of the ways that you assisted her as an attorney in building out the estate documents.
Yeah. So, I do document prep for people, and having her, we went to lunch one day, and she just said, I want to get my stuff in order. I don't have anything. I know that's what you do. Let's get that taken care of. Obviously she trusts me because we're doing that. And so I was able to honor her wishes of what she wanted and get that done and memorialized. And then on the back end, making sure that she's taken care of with those additional documents, like the power of attorney for medical, financial decisions. So when she isn't able to take care of things, I was able to step in and handle those things for her, because she had given me that authority to do so through those documents. So it's super important. Like, people think, well, I need to do it later. Well, no, you need to kind of do them now, because now you have the capacity. First off, you can tell the people what you want. It flows with your life. So it does go through your changes of life, whether you're younger, older, very older. Usually most people wait till it's too late. So like they don't have capacity anymore, or they just pass away and they don't have anything in place. So having those in order from her at a younger stage and her timeline was very helpful, because when those life events started happening, it was seamless because everything's already taken care of.
Yes. And people say, I have a will, it's 10, 15 years old. I don't have the power of attorney. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but for us, I mean, what we do helping people with their money, like the power of attorney is almost more important than the will. It's something that you we need to make sure your bills are paid, your tax returns filed, right? If someone needs to sell your house, debts are paid, all of that stuff as well. How important is that power of attorney?
It's super important. So powers of attorney is kind of a thing that people don't understand, is that powers of attorney live. When we die, they die with us. So they're only applicable while you're alive, but unable to make those decisions. And that's where people get stuck, where I have, people come to me and they said, oh, I've got mom's power of attorney, we're good to go. And I'm like, mom's not with us anymore, and that went with her. So we need to do something else. Now we're going to go through probate because we have to have the court, oversight on that, basically. Same thing with the will. A lot of people understand like, oh, I have a will, I'm good to go, I have all my wishes out there. Well, that's great. That's a good starting point. But a will still has to go through probate. That is just a roadmap for the courts to follow through that probate process. We love them because at least we have some direction, what you wanted, but it's still going through that court process and that court oversight. Again, locking it out for, 12 to 14 to 18 months, costing those, percentages of fees and costs that are going to go to an attorney that could have went to your family. It's not private. I can pull up tons of wills right now on my county website and see people's lives, which is pretty crazy. So the way that we avoid that is through that revocable living trust or that estate planning, which includes that power of attorney documents that are important for that day-to-day stuff. So that's where people think, well, I'm going to do my life planning or my legacy planning, and I'm just going to prepare for when I die. That's great. Life happens in between there. So how we help with that is that power of attorney documents. It gives somebody the authority to step into your shoes while you're unable to. So say you have you're in an accident. Maybe you have a surgery that didn't go well. Maybe you are just, not doing well anymore. Those step in for you during those type of life events, if you will.
Sure. It sounds like with the trust, it's quicker, right? More seamless than going through the probate process. So it's quicker. And then also that $20,000 of the average probate costs, you're avoiding that as well.
Yeah. So traditionally, attorneys, when they do probate, they'll take a percentage of the estate, which to me is kind of crazy that you're going to take a percentage of someone's life. Like, that's just icky to me. Yeah. It feels weird. So especially if you have a house or something, they're going to take 10 to 15% of that on average. That's crazy, of someone's life that they built up, that they, I'm sure, wanted it to go to their children or their heirs or a charity or whatever. Now that's going to a pocket of some stranger, frankly. And, probate attorneys do a good job, and they're doing a process, but it can be avoided. We can save that money. We can save that time. We can save that heartache, basically, with that trust, where, like you said, it is faster. You have immediate access if you do what we call funding the trust correctly. That's actually physically transferring those assets to that trust. I hound people on this one a big time. It's not enough just to do the estate plan. You have to actually transfer those assets to it. And they have that access to that. Whereas opposed to, if they don't, it's kind of horrible, honestly. You've just lost somebody, and that's horrible enough as it is. And I have had countless of times of seeing somebody literally just lose somebody, and the next day or the same day even digging through papers and looking at filing cabinets and trying to find things. That's crazy. That's awful. With a trust that gives that breathing room, that you're able to go, okay, nothing has to be filed right now. Nothing has to be found. Everything has been taken care of. Cool. We can breathe. We can honor this person, and then we can take care of kind of the paperwork and the business on the back end. But it just kind of gives that kind of space to kind of grieve and to process, and then handle business from there, as opposed to the opposite, where it's like you don't even get to grieve because you're trying to file things. You're trying to scramble. You're having to go to lawyers' offices. You're in front of a judge. Like, that's terrible. And then people will grieve, a year later, that's a lot of time, to sit with those emotions and not having them processed because you're so busy doing that business.
Oh, yeah. And like you said, it takes at least a year on a simple case, and then can be longer. And also depending on where you are as well for it. Yeah, you bring up so many good points, Lindsay, the whole process of the estate plan. So having the trust is a better, easier way, more seamless way. We have had where at the funeral, Lindsay, the in-laws, right? Those are always the siblings, but the in-laws are asking, when's the money going to get paid out from the estate because we have tuition bills coming up? I'm like, it's not that easy or simple. But I do love how you said it gives the family, the loved ones, a space to properly say goodbye to their loved one, to grieve, knowing that everything is already set up in place. Now, leading up to that, it's also, we bring up a point of there must be some communication on what's happening with the assets. And you're right, funding the trust. We've had clients come in and say, I think I have a trust, but nothing's in the trust. Right, but you're having these communications with or meetings with your family to let them know the assets are in the trust. Here are the trustees. This is what happens if I am to pass, versus keeping everything a very close-lipped. Nobody knows what's going on. It's a surprise to everybody when they go to the reading of the will.
Yeah, and you can do that. And that's the nice thing about it is private. It doesn't go anywhere. It's not filed. You don't have to give it to anybody. You can do all that work on the back end. And, when you're passing or you do pass, just have a note that says, documents in drawer over here, and that's what's great. We also offer what we call our legacy vault. And it's kind of the similar thing where now it's an electronic legacy vault. Yes. Of all your documents and all the important things that are uploaded to our electronic vault. And you can give somebody access to it, or you can have the access in like we said, you put it on a card, put it in your sock drawer when you pass away. Great. They have this, they can go in there and everything is there for them. So it's on one spot. So a couple different kind of options of making sure you're making it easy for people. It's going to be hard enough to lose you. Let's just make it easy. And I always tell people, because people get weird about that of like, well, if I get this done, I'm going to die. And it's like, that's not how that works. Sadly, or fortunately, it's not how that works. But this really isn't for you. This is such a gift for your loved ones. It's such a gift for your children. Like, you've done, you basically have lived your life for them. Why would you not want to set them up on this very end to make it easy for them?
Yeah. Beautifully said, Lindsay. Very true. What got you into estate planning and law? We haven't touched on that yet.
So I went to college and I got a business degree because I was going to be in marketing and do all the fun stuff. And the economy kind of crashed during that point. And I said, well, what's the constants in life? Well, people commit crimes and people get sick. And all of my friends went to medical school. I probably should have went to medical school with them. But I don't really like blood and that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, legal is pretty fun. And I've been working in it since I was, young, and, I know attorneys and, and I ended up going to law school, got out, clerked at the district court in my county for the district court judge, which was really fun. Worked at the legislature, worked at the Supreme Court for a little bit as an intern. Mm-hmm. And just kind of really enjoyed it. And then, I did some criminal work. My formative years were post-conviction work. So I don't know, people hear about Kim Kardashian, that kind of work, similar kind of stuff. Like, that's what I worked in, which was really interesting. And then, just kind of finding the need for that. Like, people, honestly, it's a spoiler alert for everybody I know that this is the one guarantee in life is you are not going to make it. So why can't we prepare for that? And we can. And that's the cool thing about it. So it's a really kind of an enjoyable thing for me to do. Like, even though I deal with death, I deal with heavy things a lot, heavy things. It's still such a gift for people to have this done. And it's so enjoyable and it's so fulfilling when people go, two things for me. They go, oh, that was so easy, which it should be. It shouldn't be this crazy belabored process. And two, thank you for doing that. We were able to have that space. We were able to breathe. We were able to take care of these things right away. We didn't have to go to court. We didn't have to go in front of a judge. Thank you for making that so helpful, so easy that way. So.
Yes. Oh, good. And Lindsay, can you work with people just in Nevada or anywhere in the States? How does that work?
So we have options. So this is my other soapbox is I want to make, and this is probably because I did, kind of criminal work before, and having that access to justice and access to the legal system. And so we have a product line called Your Estate Plan, and it makes it affordable and easy for people to get their estate plan done from the comfort of their own home in less than an hour. That's my spiel. We have a do-it-yourself option. So if people are feeling confident and they're able to work through it, we have that option for them. And then we have the kind of little bit more hand-holding where we kind of do the documents for you, send them to you, give those instructions, and you can get it done. So it's a little less hand-holding than going to a typical traditional attorney, but it's also more affordable that way too. And honestly, a lot of these forms are set they're uniform, they're very consistent, because we want them to be that way. We want them to be consistent and in uniform across states, so we can understand them as practitioners. If we have questions, we can go through and see what the format is. They're pretty systematic across the board, and there's that reason for that, to make it easy for everybody to understand. The disadvantage of that is that there's a lot of gatekeeping in the legal community. Lawyers tell you have to hire us. Well, you don't have to have a lawyer for anything, literally. So when somebody tells you have to have a lawyer, I would question them and ask them why, and why they feel that. Sure, we know the roadmap. We've gone to school. We know the legalese. We know the formats. We know how we're tour guides. We know the lay of the land, if you will. But you don't necessarily have to have a tour guide every time you go travel. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of my soapbox on that one, is that you don't have to have somebody. We prefer you in criminal matters because that's your freedom. But technically, you don't have to have an attorney represent you.
Wow. So, very interesting take on this, Lindsay. Refreshing. Yeah. As well. Yeah. I like it.
Lawyers are going to scare you and say, well, you have to have us because we went to school and we paid all the money for that and we know what we're doing. And yeah, sure. But my thing is, I want people to be educated to make their decisions. I don't know your life. Why would I give you legal advice? I don't know you. I don't know your life. I don't know your experiences. I don't know what's best for you. You know what's best for you. So I like to educate people, empower people to have that knowledge, to whether if they want to go talk to an attorney, they have that working knowledge, so they don't feel like they're maybe being talked down to, or can understand what's being, conversed with them, or two, to make their own decisions on themselves and be able to do this or handle it themselves, because, again, spoiler alert, the time-honored tradition of lawyering is plug and chug. Like, we're not reinventing the wheel. You don't think that we're sitting back there hand typing, toiling everything from scratch. It's not. We have forms, we have, systems in place, we have standardized, pleadings, if you will, or we're a forum jurisdiction or whatever it is. These things are set that way because, again, we want to have them uniform. We want to be able to go in there, especially as a judge or a law clerk, and know that this is going to be the same format every time. I can see what's going on. It's going to be easy for me to understand what's going on and to make a decision from there. And so that's the reason for it. So don't be scared of the legal profession. Yeah.
Fascinating. Oh my, you just cracked the code for us.
Yeah.
Folk on attorneys and the law and whatnot too. Well, before we go to break, because we talked about everything from probate, power of attorneys, to mentors and loved ones, legacy, impact. Another big piece of your chapter comes up, and we just had an event on this for our clients as well, is elder abuse and fraud, scammers. And I was shocked when I saw it. $36 billion has been taken from elders because of this. 36, again, billions with a B. This happened, and this happened with Barbara as well, right? And having that meeting with her when she knew she needed to get things set up in place was a huge piece to help protect her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not when she's gone, but while she is living as well. Can we talk about that for a moment, Lindsay?
Yeah. So as you said, people get older, people are trusting, people have bad people in their lives. Unfortunately, not everybody is altruistic and wonderful like we'd like them to be. And there are scammers, and there's people with substance abuse issues, mental illness, what have you. And that happened in Barbara's instance. Her son, got into drugs. I think he had some mental illness, and basically started weaseling his way into her life. And that is why what prompted her to have that conversation with me of like, hey, I want to get this stuff taken care of, because she knew something wasn't right. She didn't feel like, and this happens a lot too, that she had the ability to handle things or to be firm with things, because this is her son. He's now weaseled his way into her home, which then that creates a whole other issue about eviction and getting rid of somebody if they're in a home, because now they have quote unquote property rights in some states. But having that estate plan in place made me the bad guy, if you will, to be able to advocate for her, to be able to lock up her assets, to be able to make sure that I'm handling those things, and she doesn't have that access technically anymore in a lot of ways. So I can make sure that somebody's not siphoning her money or taking that money from her, making sure that I have the checkbooks, I have the access to all those things, and she doesn't, because she's given me that authority through the estate plan and through that power of attorney to handle these things for her and to alert the proper authorities when that time came to make sure that she was taken care of.
Oh, good. Good. Thank goodness. Yeah. Because it happens all the time. And there's so many different scammers. There's always going to be new ones. AI is only going to make it worse as well. So, but when we've seen when you have a plan in place, right, whether it's for your money and for your estate, you have a team surrounding you, it's less likely to happen. So glad that Barbara had you, and you had Barbara, and then you were able to help her out on the other side as well.
Yeah.
Well, stay with us, ladies. We will be right back after this quick break.
At the Wealth Boutique, we know there's a different kind of wealth. It's not just about the dollars in your account, but that sense of freedom, confidence, and security that comes with it. We know that money isn't just about the math. It's so deeply intertwined with your emotions, values, aspirations. And it's your time. For too damn long, society has whispered in your ear, planting seeds of shame, guilt, greed, embarrassment around money. But here we say and do something different. We give you permission to be who you are meant to be, to spend where it feels good, and to invest where your heart is. Our female-focused team of advisors understands the unique financial journeys of women, couples, and their families. We're not here to just talk numbers. We're here to help you craft your own financial triumph story, one that reflects your goals and values. We open up our arms at the Wealth Boutique to guide you, be your confidant, your advocate, your ally, whether it's your retirement, financial plan, or estate plan. Let's craft your unique story and get started.
All right, we are back with Lindsay Wheeler, founder of Your Estate Plan. Whether you are in a different state, doesn't matter. She's got you covered, ladies. All right, we are coming up to this portion of the show. We're going to ask Lindsay some targeted questions. All right, Lindsay. First and foremost, what is your rise and find tip or strategy? What is that go-to move that you would recommend to our viewers here?
Of course, it's going to be what you think is getting your estate plan in place, making sure that you avoid probate for your loved ones, or if you don't have an asset that maybe necessarily necessitates a full estate plan or a trust, making sure that it's still buttoned up, it's still taken care of, and having that review with yourself, with your assets, with financial advisors, maybe CPAs, and double checking that either you have direct beneficiaries on things, you have an estate plan set up, those powers of attorney documents, getting that taken care of, because that is just, again, we're not coming out of this alive. So it's the one thing we can actually prepare for, which is pretty cool. It is literally the one thing we can prepare for. So why would we not do that?
Yes. And how often should people update them? Let's say I had them 10, 15 years ago. Maybe my first child's on and not the second child. When should we update them?
So two kind of rules with them that I like to follow on that is that, so every 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Or if you're having to change your insurance designation, take a look at your estate plan. You got married, you got divorced, you had a kiddo, those are big, changing events. Your kiddos are now 18, double checking that, so that's usually those two rules of thumb of when those should be taken care of is, every 3 to 5 years if nothing's really changing, or those big material changes, that way.
Sure. Or your children getting married, right?
Yeah, children getting married, those big things. Big parts of life, particularly also when your kids turn 18, they should have their own set of powers of attorney because now they're adults.
Good.
And this is a big thing that people think, well, okay, that's my baby. Correct. That is still your baby, but that is an 18-year-old adult baby. And so you have no rights to take care or advocate for them anymore like you did when they were children. And so they now need to have their own set of powers of attorney to continue to allow you to do that. So maybe they go off to college. Maybe they need some financial help or something. Maybe something's happened. God forbid they're in an accident. You need to have medical, advocacy there. So big things there to help them transition that way, getting that taken care of.
Sure. Going off to college, going abroad, we've seen as well, whether it's during college or after college, and they're not going to be able to file their tax returns or to keep paying their bills, right? Or to be able to make changes with their accounts. We've seen a lot too. And you're right. And 18 comes so fast, and you're as your mom already that I don't have that power anymore over the child. It's also a time if they have a minor custodian account, it's time for it to become their own account, which sounds crazy, but yep, no, they're grown up now in the eyes of the states and the law. for it too.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up, Lindsay. I was going to ask you about that. When children turn 18, get those documents done. Is that something also with your estate plan that they're able to access?
Yep, we have a college package just for those kiddos. And then with that, talking about kiddos, maybe we have, savvy parents out there getting this done. So also think about if you have underage children as well. So what happens if, God forbid, something happens to you or your spouse or together? What happens then? What typically happens is we need to have that guardianship nomination on there because we want to know who you want raising those children. Again, this is empowering you to make these decisions, not the state's plan for you. You want your next door neighbor who's your best friend raising your kids and not your great aunt Tess, who's next on the line in the family lineage. You don't want her raising your kids, but you want your neighbors. Well, you need to let us know through the courts, through that estate plan. With that being said, too, is that having the estate plan and that trust really empowers you to still continue parenting your children if you're not here. So you can put parameters in there. So if you were to pass away and your children are underage, all of that money would basically go into a block trust account for them. And at 18, they get all of that. So think about if you had a house, if you had investments, you had 401ks, you had some nice retirements or bank accounts, they're going to get all of that money at 18. That could be a substantial amount of money. And I don't know about you, but at 18, if you gave me $500K, I'm getting a Lamborghini. It's just what's going to happen. So you, through your estate plan, can still parent them when you're not here. So you can put parameters in there that at 18, they only get a certain percentage for school. At 25, maybe they get an additional percentage to continue their education or maybe to invest in a business or put down on property. At 30, maybe we hope that they're responsible enough and let's give them their money then. Or you can be like my friend who was like, nope, forget those kids, 55 in a financial literacy class. That's the cool thing. I've seen it. And that's what you can do. This is customizable to you and your life and your children. You can put, in college, if they get all A's, they get a bonus from the trust. If they get C's or below, they'll owe the money, back to the trust or whatever it is. So you can still have control over that. And it's not the state's plan. It's your plan for you and for your family still. So that's kind of the cool thing that people don't think about with that estate planning component as well. And we like to think that we're never going to go away. But again, lives and bad things happen. And these are things that we can actually prepare for. So why wouldn't we want to do that?
Yeah. You're just validating those relationships. Right? You're putting the love there for it too. And I really like how you said you're able to parent even though you're no longer here. As my father called it, I'm going to give you a few chances to blow the money. Because you're right.
Okay.
At what you would do with the money at 18 versus 25, 30, 35, very different. And it can be very overwhelming too to receive that amount of money. And we all know who comes out of the woodworks trying to get a piece of it too once they find out I have this great business idea.
Right. All your friends, let's go party. Let's go to Ibiza. We can travel, or even, marriages, it kind of helps for that too. You can lock that money away and then, bad spouses aren't having, control over that or ability to get pause on, inheritance that way because you've provided those parameters too. It's not just for in death. Again, this estate plan is for your life and provides for many different scenarios throughout your life. That's what's cool about it.
Yes. And one of the statistics that I believe it's 70% of wealth is lost from one generation to the next. And by the time it's the third generation, it's 80 or 90% of the wealth is gone too. So I think that financial literacy class is spot on for it too, or just have that relationship with an advisor and an attorney with that next generation, right? We have clients from the parents down to the grandchildren, and we love that because we know their values and morals around money and having the right documents in place to pass it on. And let's face it, Lindsay, the baby boomers, as they're aging, right? By year 2030, all baby boomers will be 65 and older.
Yeah.
They have the most wealth than all previous generations. They have a lot of wealth. They worked very hard for their money. So that's going to be a huge windfall to the next generation. They need to protect this money. They need to get these documents.
And to pass it accordingly and pass it easily by getting that estate plan in place. It's also super important for people who or maybe are not married. Maybe they don't have children. Where's that going to go? Is it going to go to friends, family, loved ones, charities, wherever it is? So that's another thing. So if you pass away and you don't have that spouse or that heir, those children, where's that stuff going to go? Where's your hard work going to go? That's another thing to think about.
Yes. And the charities, I do work with a lot of single women in retirement, and then just figure out which charities do you include or nonprofits and foundations. That can be overwhelming, but you don't like you can update it and change it as you go, right?
Right.
For it too. How about Lindsay? What's the trend that you're noticing when it comes to women in estate plans?
I think exactly that. I was just going to say this. I think the statistic I just read the other day is that like by 2030, 48% of all women are going to be single because we're just tired. I don't know. It's like crazy statistic.
I think that's been too much work.
Yeah. It's like, I don't need to deal with this. I'm successful on my own. I'm doing my own thing. I have my girlfriends, I have a fulfilling, loving life. I don't need to complicate that with having to take care of somebody else, frankly, in a lot of ways, the unpaid labor that has, goes along with a lot of that. And they're living wonderful, successful, fulfilled lives, which is great. So they need to also think about making sure that that stuff goes where they want it to go. Their hard work, their legacy, their, identity in a lot of ways goes where it needs to go, whether that is to other loved ones, nieces, nephews, family members, or to those charities that they really value and want to, empower with some cash infusion.
Yes. And you don't have to wait until you pass to donate. There's amazing ways that you can do with donor advised funds where you get amazing tax benefits. You set aside money in this type of account and you get to pick where the money is going to go each year. You could donate a certain percentage or the gains each year to different charities, communities, churches, nonprofits as well for it too. So that's interesting. More women are going to be single, right? Whether it's widow or divorce or just choosing that from the start as well. And more women are going to have more wealth than they've ever had before.
Yeah. It's pretty cool to see and pretty empowering that, you have that ability to do that now, because not long ago you were not.
No, or you could get a credit card or a mortgage in your own name. And now, and I've been joking now for men to be in the relationship, right? They actually have to pull their weight.
Right.
That's, I think, why anymore. What are you going to do to stay in here? As well. How about, we have a few minutes, Lindsay, the estate tax exemption. Can we talk a few minutes on this? How much money people can pass estate tax free, and there's some possible changes happening with it as well.
Yeah, so there's a sunset on that. And then for the federal stuff, double check with your state whether you have that state, income tax off of that inheritance tax, if you will. I know a lot of states are phasing that out or raising. Yeah,
we're going
or raising the exemption amounts on that. So I always say, always check with that because things change. Check with your accountant. Check with your financial advisor, especially with your CPAs. I mean, they live in the tax code, which bless them for that because nobody got time for that, but they do. And they keep up on all those things of where they want to keep your money for you. They don't want to have it paid out to the government or the IRS. So always check with your CPA, check with your financial advisors, because they'll be in the know on that of what is changing day to day and making sure that your money's going to go where it needs to go and saving you money as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Lindsay, random question, are you sure you're not from the Northeast? Because your sense of humor and you speak very quick.
Yeah.
That I'm like, I feel like I'm talking to another fellow Jerseyan.
My mom's from Massachusetts, so that might be where it comes from.
I mean, not an accent, but you do speak very
well. The mannerisms for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we talk with our hands all the time as well for it too. All right, Lindsay. Well, we just have one more question for you.
What makes you a woman behind the millions?
I think just, knowing what you want, being, forward with that, if you will. Don't be, unapologetic about what you want and going and getting it. That we live in an era and an age that we're able to do that. And yeah, there's still some barriers behind it. And yeah, there's a lot of work, but it's so much easier than it used to be. So why are we not taking advantage of that? And just kind of living the life that you want to live. Don't live for somebody else. Live for the life that you want, whether that's having children, being married, being single, traveling, whatever it is, do it and do it well.
And you're also protecting millions of dollars. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that too.
Our probate costs, estate taxes, right?
Yeah, keeping that wealth where it belongs. Yeah, and I like wealth in the hands of women. That's a great place for wealth to be.
Wealth in the hands. Yes, they say women give back 4 times more than men. Not that men don't give back, but we're givers, right? We're constantly giving, whether it's our time, relationships, or amazing at connecting people, our wealth as well. So getting more wealth in the hands of women. Great place for us to end our show tonight. Lindsay Wheeler, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. Where can everybody find you?
They can find me on all the socials. It's Legacy Sips and Tips with Lindsay, or just Sips and Tips with Lindsay. That's my handle, because when you think of death, think of me. I talk a lot about that. And then, of course, at yourestateplan.online, and you have all the resources there to get you guys set up with your estate plan and to make sure that that wealth is protected and goes where you need it to go.
Oh, beautiful. Well, we can't wait for your chapter to come out. It is a beautifully written chapter. There has to be more writing in your future, Lindsay. It is just incredible. Cannot wait for Rise and Find. November 14th, when everybody can get the pre-order of the book. November 14th, Rise and Find. We will get the information out to you on pinkfixproductions.com. Thank you so much for Lindsay for being part of the book, this movement, and for being on the show tonight and the work that you do. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all of our viewers, listeners, to Women Behind the Millions, all of our money queens. We wish you the best and most fabulous nights. Remember to stay in your pink and to embrace that power, that prosperity, and to own it. Be big, bold, beautiful, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week on another episode of Women Behind the Millions.
Hey, money queens, looking to get your wealth to that next level, 7, 8, 9 figures? Follow us on Instagram at pinkfixmymoney and at Women's Wealth Boutique for more millionaire money tips.